What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I want to do an update on the Eibach suspension setup I have on our 200 Land Cruiser. Just got it waxed, so it's looking pretty good. Let me show you the suspension. Alright, first shot here is the driver's side coil over. No issues with it, no leaks. Not really any corrosion or anything on the shock body. Here's the KDS arm. I don't believe there's any rubbing, and I have no rubbing at all with this setup. You can see I have all the plastic still, and the mud guards. Let's show the passenger side. Here's the passenger side coil over. You can see the CV axles again. No issues. No rubbing here either. Again, all factory plastics. Let's go check out the rear. Alright, here's the driver rear shock. No leakage or issues with this that I see either. I did delete the boot. The Eibach comes with a shock boot, but it's held on with zip ties, so I took it off. I can't really get a video of this coil spring spacer, but it's on the very top, 30 millimeters. So check out the other side. A little dirty at the bottom. I might wipe that off. It might just be road grime. I might wipe that off and just see if it comes back or not. But overall, no issues. They all look pretty good. No rust or corrosion on the shock bodies. Alright, do a quick walk around. So the front to rear, it's like 3/4 inch rake. So the rear is 3/4 inches taller than the front. The rear is pretty soft though, so any weight in the rear sags it down. It does have third row seats still. I measured about 21 1/4 in the front from hub to fender, I believe. I'm gonna measure it again in the garage. This driveway's not 100% level, but anyways, so stock running boards. It's got 3/4 inch rake at the running boards. So when I measure the running boards, that's where it's got 3/4 inch rake. I know from the side here, the fender gap looks like the rear is way taller, but at the running boards, it's got 3/4 inch rake. So just walk around it. Shot of the rear. It actually sets really tall, honestly. So the front is the Eibach on the first clip setting with the OEM Land Cruiser front strut spacer, and then the rear is a 30 millimeter coil spring spacer with the stock coil springs. The front has stock coil springs too, and it rides great. Honestly, my wife is really impressed with the setup, other than it's a little taller for the car seats. But overall, she really likes it. I'm really happy with the ride. It completed all the goals that I was looking for. It still rides very soft and plush, Land Cruiser OEM style. However, the Eibach struts and shocks give way more body control than the OEM. A little lint from my wax towel. I'm thinking it needs a set of wheels. I'll put some pictures on of my Tundra's methods on here. I just think it looks way better with a set of wheels and tires. All right, I got the two side by side. You can see the height difference. The Land Cruiser's bumper is about as tall as Tundra, which is a 3-inch lift on 34.5. Height-wise, they're pretty close too. Pretty interesting, honestly, between the two. Here's a shot of the rears. Again, the Land Cruiser is pretty tall for having a smaller lift and smaller tires. 275 70s, 275 65 20s. I think the Land Cruiser just needs either wheel spacers or an aftermarket set of wheels. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. But it already looks really aggressive. It's literally almost as tall as my truck, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna do the driving portion here. I want to talk a little bit about the Eibach Pro Truck kit for the 200 series Land Cruiser. First, get out of the way, I have an alignment done on this Land Cruiser. It drives perfect, except for I think they didn't reset the digital steering, whatever it's called, the DR, whatever, I can't remember what the acronym is. But as you can see, it's kind of like on the 11 o'clock position to go straight, but the vehicle goes straight. So if I do this, it goes to the right. So I need to get a realignment done, have them reset that. The dealer I went to, I don't think does too many Land Cruisers, but he aligned it great. I gave him my Tundra specs that I use for my lifted Toyota Tundra, my 2016 Tundra, and he hit it spot on. Even had better caster than what I gave him. So anyways, so get that out of the way. So you can see the steering wheel is not perfectly straight. So, but let's talk about the Eibach kit. So the kit I have installed is the Eibach Pro Truck front struts, and then I have the rear shocks, and I have the 30mm spacer. The coils on the front and the rear are factory coils. So what I was looking for with this is my wife's daily driver, primary daily driver. It hauls our two daughters around now, so we've got car seats in the back, stroller in the back, not a lot of heavyweight. So in my truck, I had the Bilstein 6112s and 5160s when I first met my wife, and my truck was lifted with that. She always mentioned about how it rode firm, and then when we got her a 4Runner, I did the Bilstein 5100s with the OEM coils just in the front, and then the rear shocks. It rode great, again, with OEM coils, factory coils. So then now my truck has the Toytech Illumina 2.5 front coilovers, which are rebranded Elkas, and she still says it rides a little firm. So my initial gut was to do the Bilstein 6112s on this Land Cruiser, but given that I don't drive this every day, this is primarily her vehicle, I didn't want to get her stuck with a stiff ride that she didn't enjoy. So then I started looking, and there really isn't a whole lot of options for ride adjustable circlip type struts. The Bilstein 4600s have a clip, but I think it's only up to 1 inch. So then initially I landed on the OEM spacer for the Land Cruiser. So I bought that through Toyota. I installed it. It gave maybe 1 inch. I can't remember how much it's rated for. It gave about 1 inch of lift in the front, and then I didn't do anything with the rear. And then when we took the vehicle to Florida, we loaded it down with everything we had to bring, and it was setting nose high because the rear had sagged so much, because we have the 3rd row seats in our Land Cruiser. So long story short, so when I got to the current Eibach setup, I wanted to be able to lift the front, lift the rear, and leave enough rake. I believe there's about a little over 5/8. I'll have to measure it again, but basically the rear of this Land Cruiser is tall enough where when we load it down and we travel, so like Florida with luggage and everything else we got to bring, it sets dead level. So it sags just enough where the front's not sticking up in the air, because when we went to Florida, the headlight, it was literally sitting just probably like that, like one of them squatted trucks, because it had the rear squatted so bad. Anyway, so that was the whole goal, was to get it to ride well, fix the handling. So when I was not a fan of the factory ride, my wife loved it. Being used to my Tundras, I did not like it at all. I actually really didn't prefer driving this vehicle, because every time it was super floaty and it felt boaty to me, and every time you go around a corner it wanted to lean, even with the KDSS, and you just couldn't drive it spiritedly. It was more of a laid-back cruiser per se. As you saw in that corner with the Eibach, these greatly improved corner stability, in my opinion, and roll. And this concrete section isn't very smooth, so as you can see, like the smaller bumps, concrete sections, it's still very compliant, very soft with the OEM coils and the Eibach suspension, which is what I wanted for my wife's daily driver. And it really helped with the nosedive. That was something that with the factory suspension, before I did the OEM spacer, with the factory rake, when it would nosedive, it almost felt like I was going into the steering wheel, which I'm not used to with my truck. The Tundra doesn't nosedive. So that was ultimately, that's what really led me down lifting this Land Cruiser. When we bought it, we said we're going to keep it stock. We don't want to modify it, because, you know, they last forever. Why would you want to throw aftermarket stuff and complicate something that's legendary reliability? But again, same thing happened with our 4Runner. I was not happy with the OEM ride, and the 4Runners are worse. They nosedive way worse than this one did. So that led me down the rabbit hole of OEM spacer, and then to the Eibach Pro Truck suspension that I have now with the rear spacer. So I'm kind of just going to drive here and talk to you guys a bit about the ride. So what does my wife think of the ride? My wife loves the way this rides now. Granted, she was happy with the OEM suspension, the 100% stock suspension, and the way it rode, but she told me that she loves the way it turned out, except for the ride height increased just enough where it's kind of hard for her to get our daughter up in the car seat. It's not as bad as the truck. The Tundra's way worse, but that was her only complaint she had, which I'll take as a win, because she's always mentioned about how the truck rides rough. She doesn't like the way the truck rides, and I did this route to try and make her happy on her daily driver while still making me happy, because I didn't like the way it drove 100% stock. I like the way it looks on the outside. I think it gave it the perfect amount of lift in the front with the first clip and the OEM spacer on top. I think it made it perfect height. And then the 275, 70, 18s, the 33s, I think they look a little too small now. So next time we get tires, we may upsize just to fill the wheel wells a little better. But there's no rubbing. There's zero rubbing on the factory wheels. I still have all the mud flaps and everything, so I really have nothing to complain about. It rides great. You see here, I'm gonna take off kind of hard here, because what I've kind of experienced is that the front is a little stiffer spring right now, and the rear squats under hard acceleration. I'll see if you guys can notice the hood pop up here. I'll give it a good amount of gas from this light here. See, you can see it pops up. So it's like it's almost like it could have benefited from a heavier spring in the rear. Maybe the Eibach spring, and it would have stopped it from squatting like that. But it's still, it's kind of comical whenever and this isn't a fast vehicle. So it's adequate. I think it's faster than most cars, but I wouldn't say it's like super fast. But when you take off from a stoplight decently hard, and it throws you back in your seat, and it lifts the hood up, it's kind of funny for this off-road vehicle. What else do I got? I'm just really happy with the kit. For the price, it's not an expensive kit. So honestly, my expectations of it weren't, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. Like my Toy Tex, I spent over like 1,200 bucks on that suspension setup when I replaced my 6112s. I think my 6112s were like 1,000 bucks. I think I'm all in this thing, if you count the OEM spacer, under 600 bucks in parts, which is crazy that it rides as well as it does for that price. And it does OEM upper control arms, it aligned fine. I really have no complaints. I would highly recommend this suspension to anyone with their Land Cruiser that may be in a similar situation as me, where it's your significant other's daily driver, maybe the family hauler, grocery getter, you call it that, where you still know that it has the capability and the ground clearance to, like for example, go down to our farm, and it wouldn't drag probably anywhere that I drive my truck through, like during hunting season. You can take the trails we've made, and not worry about that, while also not breaking the bank. Because I feel like everyone on the Land Cruiser groups does the Old Man Emu BP51s, which are really expensive. And I feel like that would be overkill for this Land Cruiser's application right now, where it's my wife's daily driver. It's mostly doing pavement with gravel, sometimes the farm, off-road like that, kind of like Midwest off-road here, where we're kind of driving through either a created trail in the woods or through a pasture. I just think that this suspension for the money is the best bang for the buck in my experience with my Tundra and with the 4Runners and all the other suspensions I've tried. I feel like for the amount of money I have invested here, it would be hard to beat this kit. And the fact that my wife's happy is just the cherry on top. Alright, I measured in the garage. 21 in the front. It's pretty even passenger driver, which is surprisingly. Usually there's a Toyota lean. And then 22 and 3/8 in the rear. Hub defender. So hub defender, and then the running board is 3/4 of an inch difference from about right here to about right here. So about 3/4 inch of rake. 30mm spacer, Eibach sport truck rear shocks, OEM Toyota Land Cruiser front top spacer, so top spacer here, and then the Eibach Pro Truck leveling struts on the first clip. So 0.8 inch per the instructions from Midmo. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hope you guys enjoyed the update on the Eibach Pro Truck suspension for the 200 series Land Cruiser. We love it. I definitely recommend it for the price point. There's really nothing budget wise in the Land Cruiser from my research. For this price point, I think it's hard to beat the suspension. I think the next level up would be the Bilstein 6112s, 5160s in the rear. However, like I told the people on the forums and stuff, I was gonna buy that because my truck had that initially. However, the 6112s were available, but the 5160s, one of the rears was always out of stock. They were never in stock together. And then when I went through the warranty process with Bilstein on my truck, I just I started paying more attention to availability. If there's no availability, they can't warranty it. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have a good one.